marketing, business, and more. Today, we're breaking down LinkedIn profiles. So I'm your host, Carrie Rollwagon, and I'm here with Elena Harmond. Welcome, Elena.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So Elena is our marketing manager, and that includes social media as well as many other things. And at the end of the episode, I'm going to actually ask you to share one cool thing that you're loving this week. But before that, let's get into the topic. So I think that we all know the feeling of having a sad LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
Like an old pic. I think mine had an old picture, a lot of stuff about jobs I'm not doing anymore, and I never posted. And that can be more than embarrassing. It can actually be bad for business.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, for example, we work at Infomedia. Our company builds websites. I had more than one friend, basically be about to launch their website and then find out that I built websites. And it's like, oh, I would have gone with you, but they didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably means I'm a good person because I don't meet people and say, hi, I'm Carrie. I can build your website. I can't build a website, but I know people who can. But that's a weird way to interact in the world, but it's a normal way to interact on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So, yeah. So I asked Elena to give my LinkedIn a makeover. So it's a lot better now. And so I'm hoping that you can help our audience do the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, LinkedIn is, like Carrie said, when you think about your personal LinkedIn, it's not just representing you. It's also representing whatever company you work for. So you want to make a good impression, obviously, like with your profile. And that includes your photo and your summary and everything. And unfortunately, there are a lot of things to include there. But with just a few steps, you'll have it in no time.
Yeah. And I do think this is more doable. I think the last time I had a deep dive into my LinkedIn, I didn't touch it for 2 more years. But you've led me through a good process, and I've actually been keeping it updated. So
good.
Also, everybody find me on LinkedIn. Tell me what you think.
Yeah.
And mine was not the worst in the company. We definitely we had people who had pictures of other people who were not them.
Yep.
First, we had Elena audit all of our LinkedIn profiles, and I feel like that was a real journey for you.
There was one whose profile summary was just business in all caps. So it's this is business, but you got to go into just a little bit more detail.
More, yeah.
Yeah, just a little more.
Well, while we're on that subject, the profile summary, what do we need there? Because when I'm filling it out, it feels really redundant because it asks you your skills, your awards, what do you, it seems like it asks you in a lot of different ways. So in that profile summary, what are we supposed to put there?
So the profile summary is a great place to just explain who you are and what you do, but bring life to your work. You don't want to just be I'm Carrie, I'm the vice president of Infomedia, and here's what I do. You want to explain kind of why you do what you do in a way. What's your why? What's your reasoning? You don't have to be deep about it or anything. Yeah. But I think part of mine says something about bringing creativity to strategy for marketing.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of it is combining those two things. So just little nuances like that, whatever it is. But just giving a little bit more than just one word, which is business,
So if you do more than business in all caps, you're on the road to success.
Yeah, you're on the right track.
Yeah. So it's kind of is it a thesis sentence or not sentence, but paragraph that it still touches on other things you might say, but it's bringing out the most important and giving a little life to it, like you said. Is that?
Yeah, and I think just also for any of your potential clients or someone who would go to your profile, it's giving them a little bit of insight into what you do at the company. So even a lot of our employees at Infomedia are never going to talk to clients, but it's still important for them to have a representation of who they are if a client were to look at their page and at least see, oh, maybe that person was the designer on my website, or maybe that person had some kind of hand in this process. You know what I'm saying? Just little things like that.
That's good. And that's another reason, I guess, that even though you may have this stuff later on your page, not everyone is going to read through all of your awards or whatever. So the most interesting stuff, just have it up there in the summary. Cool. Well, as far as other really obvious things, photos, what do we think about, like, what are we thinking about when we're using photos on LinkedIn?
So, like I said, you want to make a good impression with this. So high quality photo, you definitely want to have, like, a headshot is good, but if you don't have a headshot, it can really be anything that's not like
Silly.
silly or just anything that looks a little bit professional is good. And then it also lets you have a cover photo, so you could do like a photo of of something related to your company, or like my cover photo is that sign that's somewhere downtown in Birmingham, but it says "Do something great" and it's like a neon sign.
Yeah.
So I think just
at
something
Lewis,
that
yeah.
inspires a little bit is good, and it doesn't have to, like, you don't have to overthink it, but just something a little bit professional, like I said.
That photo was what was really tripping me up because, well, for one thing, I got the note, like, replace your profile photo. And I was like, oh no, am I that person that, like, has, like, a really young photo? And it's like, you don't look like that anymore. But anyway, so I replaced my photo. But then the long cover photo was like, what am I supposed to put there? But you suggested, I think we had some pictures of One Quick Question Live that kind of showed some of the audience, and I think Pam and I are at the front, and you were like, well, that's what we use on Pam, so I just copied that.
Yeah, it's definitely a really weird crop. Like, it's a really wide, short crop, which I think at Infomedia we're a little bit used to that because, like, we have to add photos to websites all the time. But it's hard to find a photo that will fit there, so it needs to be something that's really wide. But yeah, like Carrie said, something that's like in your element at work or something like that is good.
I think that's great. And like you could do, like, we used on mine, it's a photo that was taken like at one of our events. Yours is a photo that you just took. Before this, I'd pulled one from Unsplash, which is like a website that has like royalty-free photos. So I just like played around until I found one that I felt like represented me. I think it was books or something. But I'm not selling books anymore, so this is better. But there are a few options. But yeah, it looks like a sideways bookmark. It's like the weirdest crop. All right, so I guess another section is skills. Like, how do you approach skills? Is more better? Do you just put like 100 skills? Like, what do you do?
So it is necessary. Like, you want to have a few skills on your profile at least. I would say 10 to 15 is probably good, or less, because you don't want to put every single skill that you have.
I'm like, I'm a very well-rounded person.
Yeah.
Does knitting go on here? Like,
right, I know, like all these random perler beads.
Yeah.
But I think, like, for the skills, you want to focus on what's relevant for your current position. And if you have, so when you're editing your positions, if you have any like previous positions on your profile, you can select which skills you used in like which position, if that makes sense. It's a little confusing, but I will say it does make it look like you have something like with your positions if you haven't written a job description. So it like still looks like you have something there because LinkedIn will add the skills.
Yeah, it's a quick way to do that.
So that's it's a good way to just add some consistency on your page and make it all of your positions look like they have text.
I think that's true. And if you're using this as like sort of a bonus to your resume, if you're looking for a job, I think that's helpful. Like, if I were hiring somebody, it's good to know they used this skill in their last 3 jobs, so they're like they really know what they're doing. This isn't just like a random thing that they've been doing for 6 months. So
yeah, totally. And then also with skills, you can get people to endorse your skills, and you can also endorse other people's skills. So you can do coworkers or just, other people. And then you can also take skill assessments. So it's, I think, a LinkedIn like sponsored or whatever. Like, LinkedIn will just put together tests that are probably pretty simple, I would imagine. And then it will list that next to the skill on your profile that you've taken the skills assessment. So that's a great way to kind of prove that you have knowledge in those areas.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So let's see, what else? What else is part of LinkedIn? You have skills, you have your profile summary. What about like awards and things like that?
So the way that LinkedIn is now, I don't know when they changed it, but whenever I was recently looking at my profile, they have it where you can add sections to your profile. So like the skills is a section that you would add. You can also add an honors and awards section, and like publications or features or things like that. So if you have awards that you've won, or if you just have certifications or licenses or anything like that, you definitely want to add those sections to your profile. And it will let you put when you won the award and what it was for and all of that stuff. So
And it's kind of, for me, it's also kind of a good way to have those things because I never remember. Like, if you ask me, have you won any awards in the past few years? I'll just be like, no. But then, like, I look back at my LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, yeah. Like,
yeah,
like,
it really is kind of like a virtual like resume
yeah.
that's just public.
Yeah.
But it's a good way to think of it, and think of it as more of an asset to you than something that's a pain to do, because it is kind of a pain, but like you said, it will serve you better in the long run because you'll have all that stuff in one place.
Yeah. And it did help to kind of break it down. Like, you looked at our profiles, I think all the management team, and you kind of said, like, okay, here are the areas that you can improve. I think for people listening, you could just have a friend do that, like a coworker especially, or somebody that you trust, be like, hey, what do you think I should change? And it helped me to break it down. Like, I think you'd mentioned like the photos, just update my profile summary. And then another thing, I feel like everybody had, for everybody else, you gave them like their blog, the link if they had a blog and a podcast. And for me, you were like, you're on your own. You have too many.
Well, Carrie has a lot of publications.
Which I was just like, yeah, but I need help narrowing them down. Like, all these people had to do is Google, and they could have, I'm just kidding. But it still helped to break that down because, like, one day on my list, I was like, hey, choose my publications. And then, like, the next week, I was like, okay, find links to the, like.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just like, I didn't have to get into LinkedIn and do everything all at once. I like kind of broke it down and like find pictures today, and then like, okay, another day, do my skills,
Yeah. And LinkedIn, as far as like the publications go or the featured section or whatever, like you said, once that's on your profile, it's like it's really easy to access those things. So LinkedIn gives you a place to link to whatever it is. So like if someone's looking at your profile and you've got a podcast or a blog post that you wrote or something like that, and you've got it linked on there, or even like I featured the History of Infomedia video that I think I wrote. I don't think I wrote the script for it. I know I did.
Yeah.
But I wrote the script for it, and so that's linked on there. So now whoever goes to my profile can easily see, oh, that's what that is. I can watch it, and she wrote the script for it. That's great.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy access, and it makes you look really good.
So here's a question. For that history video, it also won an Addy.
It did.
But you were not listed. You were accidentally left off of the credits.
At my own fault.
I wasn't going to mention that. But so can you, like, did you list that as an award on LinkedIn? Is that kind of like, balm to the wound or something?
Now that you mention it,
you should.
I don't know if I have the award itself listed. I know that I have the publication listed in my publication section.
Well,
but
put the award on there. And now that I say that, I don't think my Addies are on there.
Yeah,
either,
you should put your Addies on there too. I just saw you write that down.
Yeah. I write a note, brag about myself.
Hey, we all have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what LinkedIn is all about, right?
Yeah.
Well, are there other tips or anything else we need to be including?
I think the only other thing is the little tagline thing, or your headline, I think is what they call it on LinkedIn. But it's basically what is shown next to your name on your profile. So a lot of people just have their job title, and that's fine. You can have just your job title. But that's also a great place to add a little bit more just quick insight into what you do. So I think mine says like marketing manager, podcast producer, creative enthusiast or something.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have another thing like podcast producer, it can be like literally like dog mom or something,
Yeah,
whatever it is, like
Yeah.
something that adds a little personality and, gives
Yeah.
people a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, and it probably depends for all of this stuff. Like, what kind of position do you have? What kind of position are you looking for?
Definitely.
And kind of adapt your profile to that. Because our business is kind of like, very professional, but the tech industry is also kind of casual and, there are jokes and things like that. And so those things like are right at home in our profile and wouldn't hurt us getting another job. It kind of depends on if you're doing something super corporate, obviously you're going to have a different kind of mindset, but
definitely. And I will say, as just like one last thought, I know, like I said, it's kind of a pain to do all of this, but the more you keep up with LinkedIn, I will say, like, in my experience, the more of an asset it becomes to you, because I've actually found that I enjoy going on LinkedIn and just looking at posts now. I was telling Carrie this the other day, but I used to think that, I don't ever go on LinkedIn. I only go there just to see if I have any messages or whatever,
Yeah.
But now that I've kind of curated, I guess, my algorithm to what I'm interested in, I actually find a lot of really helpful information there. So I think that the more you use it, the more you'll get out of it, if that makes sense.
I think so, too. And I've also found that people that you work with and people like Matt Robinson from Uptick, like I see, but now that I'm on LinkedIn, I see a lot more stuff that he's posting. He's pretty active. And it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then I've read blog posts that like I don't necessarily like read every blog on their website. So it's just kind of nice to kind of strengthen some of those like networking connections that are just like very tenuous connections, but I don't know. And then being able to, even when you're in person, just say like, oh, I saw you won an award, or it's your work anniversary. And I do feel like for the work anniversary, everyone was like, that date is wrong. Because we're all just making it up. But it's still a talking point.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Thank you for sharing how to give our LinkedIn a makeover.
Yeah, of course.
But we've all been waiting for, what is one cool thing you've been loving this week?
This is a little nerdy, but I've really been loving Pokemon Sleep.
Yeah.
It's, I love Pokemon in general, so any game that Pokemon comes out with, I will definitely at least try it. But Pokemon Sleep is a Pokemon game, and the way that you catch new Pokemon is to get better sleep.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like a sleep tracker with the purpose is to track your sleep.
Yeah.
But the fun part is you get to also catch Pokemon, and you get to feed a Snorlax all day. You just give it berries and create a different team. It's really fun. I will say it's taking up way too much of my time for a sleep tracker to be taking. But
how does it know that you're asleep?
You tell it that you're going to sleep, and you put your phone down or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you ask certain people around the office that I've told, sometimes, actually almost every day, I track a fake nap while I'm at work for an hour and a half. But it's a good way to stay off my phone.
Yeah. So you can use it as a sleep tracker, or you can use it as like almost a screen lock.
Yeah. Yes. You can also use it as a thing to be like, I'm not looking at my phone right now. But
both are good.
Yeah,
both are good
exactly.
habits. So.
Whatever works. And if it makes me like, if it takes a Pokemon game to get me to like want to sleep earlier, that's good. Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Because I'm a night owl for sure. So
yeah. Well, thanks for being here, Elena.
Yeah, of course.
This podcast is brought to you by Infomedia. We're a company that helps small businesses with everything related to websites.
Check us out at infomedia.com. We'd love to work with you. Infomedia.com is also where you'll go for show notes, which include links to everything we talked about today.
And now for the end credits. One Quick Question is developed and hosted by me, Carrie Rollwagon. Our producer is Elena. Our theme music is by Brad Davis, and our sound engineering is by our media team at Infomedia, including Paul Bryant, who is not on screen but is in the studio with us today and was definitely laughing at you about your Pokemon sleep app. So we will leave you with this thought. A real expert helps to clarify, not confuse. So don't take website advice from someone who can't give you a straight